Okay, taking a look at the book problems 11.2. We're going to do 4, 5, 6, 8, and 9. So number 4, trying to get it focused in here, is y prime equals x plus y over x minus y, and I'm trying to figure out which one of these it is. So there are no units marked on here. There's no scale, so I got to figure out big pattern. So big pattern here is this is on bottom. So when this equals 0, slopes will be undefined, which means we'll see vertical slopes. When this equals 0, slopes will be 0. So I try to figure out when this will equal 0, and that's when y equals x. So that would be along like a horizontal line, y equals x. And this is when y equals negative x, this will equal 0. So I would go a little more in depth here, but if I take this and I draw a line through there at y equals x, I notice I'm hitting all vertical slopes. And if I draw a line at y equals negative x, I'm hitting all horizontal slopes, so my winner is B. Well, if I go down to number 5, it says here's an equation, dp dt equals 0.1 p times 10 minus p. Now again, this is telling me my variables, even if they weren't marked here. I know this is the input, this is the output. Think of it as dy dx, this would be x, this would be y. So it tells me a little something here. What I know from this is that if this is equal to 0, which would happen when p equals 0, or this is, which would be when p equals 10, that means that those are the times slope is 0. So if we go look at the picture here, that means right in this area is 10, which gives me a little bit of scale. So if I plot these points and draw solution curves, so if I go to 0, 0, the slope at 0 is 0, even though we can't see it, I know that. So 0, 0, I'm never going to escape this area where I have slope of 0. The point 1, 4, if that's 10, then 1, 4 has got to be right in here. This is just a guess, don't know exactly. If I follow this up here, once I get to that asymptote, I'm never going to escape, and once I get to this one, I'm never going to escape. 4, 1 would be like right here, and you're going to see that all of these ones between 0 and 10 are going to have similar patterns if I follow the slopes. Negative 5, 1. Also looks similar. If I get outside of there though, like the negative 2, 12, this is going to look here. Okay, and doesn't look like I have any ones down here, but if I did have one down here, it would look like that. And for which values of the RP increasing, that's between 0 and 10, and they're decreasing above 10 and below 0. Number 6 says, find the slope field here is shown in the figure. So this tells me some stuff too. It tells me that if when y equals negative 1 and when y equals 2, we're going to have a slope of 0, which gives me some scale. Right in here is y equals 2, and right in here is y equals negative 1. So if I were to draw some solution, so if I went to 0, 0, I'd get caught up on this asymptote and down here on this one. If I went 0, 1, so again, we found out that this was 2, so 1 would be right in here. Similar looking picture. If I went 0, negative 5 halves, so down here somewhere, I'd have a graph that looks more like that. You kind of get the idea. We're just following the flow of the river. So if I'm at 0, 5 halves, which would put me like right up here, as I head left, we get steeper and steeper. As I head down and right, we get to this asymptote here. Says for which parts of the solution do the curves increasing? Same idea as number 5. You can figure that out, I'm sure. Number 8 says let's match these up. So we've got a bunch of equations. So first thing I notice is there's only one equation that has only an x in it. Since only x matters here, that means that the y's won't, which means this will be the only picture that has answers along vertical. So the same slopes along vertical lines. So this answer here is C. Also seems to be if I drew solution curves, they would look like parabolas, which seems to make sense since the antiderivative of this would be 1/2 x squared. So then I go here. So let's say y prime equals y. That means as I move in the upward direction, slopes are getting bigger. Downward direction, they're getting bigger, negative. So I'm thinking y prime equals y is right here. This would be B. If I go y prime equals y squared, it should look similar to this, except the slopes are never negative. So as I get bigger in the positive direction, slopes get bigger positive. And as I get smaller in the negative direction, slopes again get bigger positive. So I'm thinking this answer here is E. Y prime equals negative y would look a lot like this, except as I was at 0, slopes would be 0. As I go up, they get negative, and as I go down, they get more positive, so that would be A. And this one here, number 3, has to be 1 over y, but we can take a look at y. If we put a 0 in for y, slopes will be positive, looks good there. And as we put bigger and bigger values in, slopes get smaller. Negative values, slopes get negative smaller, but still smaller, so this gives me an answer of D. I am going to stop there. If you have questions on 9, we can take a look at that over a call or office hours. All right, thanks, guys.